Great. Well, welcome back. Thanks for sitting through that first part. I think it was a lot of talking, but it was some really good design concepts, and hopefully this is going to start to build your knowledge just around understanding the structure of these jobs, particularly as we go into job building and start building some ourselves. But right now, what I want to do is I want us to click around OpenFN a bit more together, and this way we can start becoming a little bit more familiar with the interface, the platform, and start talking about how we might actually go around and automate, or sorry, customize the automation solution. So we spent quite a few sessions on that. How do we get OpenFN to write jobs for us? But what if we want to change those jobs? And so maybe you're not ready to write your own jobs from scratch, but at the very least, you should be able to use the automation solution to get a job started. And then hopefully you can at least start to make some edits to really get the mappings that you want, or to help out your team that might be working on some even more complex transformations. So to do that, rather than me sharing my screen, would anyone be willing to give us a tour that maybe hasn't volunteered before? I'll guide you and ask you questions, and we'll all be jumping in there. But anyone willing to share their screen?
I don't mind trying if no one else wants to.
Awesome. Thanks, Charlotte. So it would be great if we can open up the ConSoSci training project.
Okay.
Let me know. I think I need to stop sharing.
Why do I share mine? Sorry, I'm never the host on Zoom calls.
I'm looking.
It's just, okay, I see. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Great, I see your screen and your nicely organized bookmarks. I'm jealous.
Saves a lot of time. I can move the window.
Awesome. So what are we looking at right here, Charlotte, before we click into ConSoSci training?
OpenFN's dashboard, project dashboard.
Exactly. So just a reminder to folks that depending on who you're working with, what you're working on, you might have many projects. So you have this ConSoSci training project, you have your own project that is your own sandbox, but you can also create projects to work with other partners and organizations. So a nice way to think about projects is, who do you want to be working with on something, and how do you want to be sharing that data? Because if you remember, whoever has access to that project might have access to the data that you're sending to that project. So just a quick consideration there. But Charlotte, yeah, will you take us into the ConSoSci training project?
Yep.
Awesome. What do we see here?
The inbox.
And what is the inbox?
Is where data is, well, data that was fetched from Kobo is sort of stored.
Exactly. 100%. So if we get data from Kobo, it shows up here as messages. Anyone else remember, is there other ways data can get to our inbox? We don't use it so much for these ConSoSci solutions, but remember, we can configure other applications to send data to OpenFN. So for ConSoSci with Kobo, we're usually doing the work to go get it. But if we're connecting ONA or ODK, rather, we might have them do the work and forwarding data onto us. So just a reminder that it's either data that you got or something that someone sent to you as well. Cool. Charlotte, do you mind kicking over to activity history?
Yep.
All right, someone else. What is activity history?
That is the list of all the sort of jobs that have run.
Exactly. So we see this history of what OpenFN has done and how these jobs have executed and when they've executed. What might we see if we click into a run?
We should be able to see the error message in this particular one.
Exactly. So we see an error message. So something that we're going to be talking about in next trainings are what are some common errors to be looking at. What else do we see? So I see there's an error, but how do I know what this error is related to?
Looks complicated.
Yeah, we'll get to this one in a second. We don't need to solve for the error, but how do I even know what data is impacted by this error?
Ah, okay. I guess you know what COBOL form it came from?
Yeah, so we can derive that probably by the job. So that's the job name. So we know what job is used. But if I wanted to know exactly which submission did not make it to the database, how could I figure that out?
Look at the message.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the incoming data, which triggered that job to run at Wednesday, April 21st at 4:30 p.m., which was me on our break, and it failed. And so then we say, oh no, there's an error. We need to figure out, what the error it is, and also what data was impacted. So Charlotte, if you want to click into that message, we can check out what data was impacted by this. And where do we go to see the actual data Kobo sends us?
In the body.
Yeah, exactly. And what do you see in white versus and green and pink?
White is the name of the variables in the survey form, in the Kobo survey form. Green are the values, and pink are numbers.
Exactly. Yeah. So depending on what your code editor view is, you can change your little backgrounds and colors. But sometimes strings, like text strings, will show up just slightly differently than numbers, but they're both data values. And then everything on the left, what we see in white on Charlotte's screen, those are the questions, the names, the actual fields, the metadata that we get from Kobo. And Charlotte, what else can we maybe learn about this data if just on this page? Like if we scroll further down, what else does OpenFN tell us about this data?
That that I tried to run this auto-tested chart, right? Raise job, but it failed. But we knew that already because that's where we came from.
That is where you came from. So depending on how you're logging, why you're logging an OpenFN, you might first be starting in the inbox. You might first be starting the activity history. So it's usually you're starting the inbox if you're, I have new data that I need to move. And if you click to the inbox, if you want to go ahead and click to the inbox, you can see from the inbox view, there's that column last run. So that tells you the latest transaction, the latest attempt of OpenFN trying to process this data. So if there's no run listed there, that means OpenFN's done nothing with your data. It's gotten to your inbox, it's sitting in your inbox, nothing's happened. But if there's a run, then we know OpenFN has tried to do something. And then that's where we can click into that run, or we can go to that activity history to learn what that was. And on the right, all the way on the right, we see the job that was triggered by that message. And so sometimes one message might trigger multiple jobs. So remember that you can have one piece of data that you're routing to multiple different destinations or formatting in multiple different ways. So just keep that in mind, as you might see two jobs that might be set off by a message. And Charlotte, where do we go to look at jobs?
The jobs panel.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. And yeah, so here are the jobs. It looks like your screen is super zoomed in. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Awesome. And what do we see here in these different jobs? Can we maybe actually, let's search for that one that failed. It was called, I think it was called WCS_test. And if everyone wants to pull up their job on their screen as well, we're going to do some things with it. Yeah, go ahead and click view. What can we know about this job just based off what we see here? Maybe someone else. Where did this job come from? How was it made? Did I write it? Did you write it?
This is coming from the automated flow. It was created by the job that automatically creates other jobs to send this data automatically.
Exactly. How did you know that?
Because it's written auto.
Yeah, exactly. So remember when OpenFN auto creates those jobs, that automation solution, when it creates that, it adds that auto space, kind of namespace before then. So that's a quick way if you're working on a project, you're like, oh, this is one that was auto-generated versus one that maybe I created or someone else created. You of course could rename this job, but that's just a quick hint. What else could we learn about this job? What does it look like this job is doing? What system is it connecting with?
A Postgres database?
Yeah, exactly. So every job will have an adapter or that connector. So you see that little plug icon. It's plugging into another database. So here it's using Postgres, so it's connecting to a Postgres database. You might be connecting to another database type or another application altogether. Exactly. And do we know which specific database yet has login details been provided for this job?
No, it doesn't look like it has.
And where'd you see that, James?
Oh, the little key icon.
Yeah, exactly. The no authentication. So Charlotte, one other way to look at this job is if you click the edit view, if you scroll up a little bit, click the pencil icon.
Oh, yeah.
This gives you like a very detailed description of all those different components. So if you will give the job a name, click on number 2. What triggers that job to run? Click on number 3. Pick your adapter. What system are you connecting with? Then you have all those different adapter options. And then number 4, that's provide authentication details. So sometimes if you don't remember what those icons mean, you just click edit in there. It kind of walks you through how to set up that job exactly. Awesome. So what do we have going on below? What does it look like this job is actually doing with data? And Charlotte, maybe if you wouldn't mind, there's that little full screen icon over to the right. We can pop that open and get more of the job in view. Man, I see this hairy set of lines to start. Any guesses from folks? What's going on here at a high level?
It's generating a unique identifiers for the data.
That's right. So it's creating all these unique identifiers. But the keyword that I see that state is being passed again, and there's that function alter state. So whenever you see alter state, what's going on is we're doing some data cleaning. We're doing some sort of data manipulation. So for all the auto-generated jobs, they're going to have this little alter state bit at the top that are going to be generating some of these other custom identifiers so that way we can ensure that idempotency and that mapping and allow for these upserts throughout the job. But remember, if you're reading any job, no matter what it is, if you see that state argument being passed, if you see alter state, that's a clue to you that JavaScript's happening. So some sort of data manipulation or cleaning's happening. So even if you don't understand the details of it, you at least know, okay, there's some sort of data manipulation step happening here. But then, Charlotte, if we go a little bit further down, I think it'll be a little bit more familiar. Aha, I see some cleaner mappings going on here. So yeah, someone else. What are we doing on line 28? James?
Yeah, it looks like, so you're upserting, you're going to the WCS Kobo dataset database, searching by that dataset ID, which is that unique ID that presumably you've got set up, and then you are inserting or updating all that data from the Kobo form.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So we're creating that Kobo dataset record. We're using dataset ID as that unique identifier to say, hey, does this Kobo dataset already exist? If it does, great. I'll update it. If not, I'm going to create a new one. And then it looks like we're also manipulating some other tables. So Charlotte, what other tables in this database does it look like we're performing some sort of action on?
WCS test shark raise. Then I guess a nested table with our boats within the shark raise table. Same with catch details subtable or something. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. Same with fish catch and a few others.
Yeah, so it's a long form. So if y'all remember when we were kind of looking at the sharks and rays form, there's lots of repeat groups and nested repeat groups. So here we can see that this is an auto-generated job that read that form definition and is like trying to map to all these tables and child tables. But yeah, we're upserting a bunch of related records is the high level. So maybe go back to that first mapping set, Charlotte.
Why do you use upsert many instead of upsert?
Yes, sorry, that's what I wanted to ask. It's okay.
Good question. So we'll talk about this a lot more even in the coming sessions, but any guesses just based off the name?
You're doing a lot of something.
Exactly. We're doing a lot. So upsert versus upsert many, it's just we're upserting one record or we're doing a bulk upload. We're upserting many. And so it's a function that is optimizing kind of processing by saying rather than go to the database, insert record, come back out, insert record, come back out, insert record, coming back. In one statement, it's just going to say insert these 5 records. And so particularly as you're working at scale with large data volumes, it's nice if you can not have individual transactions with your database, but rather just kind of one bulk upload. So where we can, we try to use this upsert many functionality. And you'll see that a lot when we have these repeat groups, because we have this one sharks and rays form, but we're capturing details on many boats. So therefore, we might have 10 boats that we're capturing, and rather than inserting 10 separate records on the same table just in one go, we're going to upload all of those boats. So that's the one, the other interesting mapping. That further down there was an each upsert many. Charlotte, can you scroll down?
Yeah, there was one there.
Oh, did you see it?
Yeah, go a little bit up. I think it was like boat catch details. Yeah. Do you mind going back up to the boat catch details? I think that was the example that we talked about quite a lot. Yeah.
This one?
So if you all remember that in this form, we have sharks and rays with the form. Then we have boats, is that repeat group? So what type of boats did you have? And for every single boat, we're asking, what did you catch today? So it's that nested grouping, 3 layers going on here. So in this case, we want to make sure that we're relating the catch to the individual boat. So here we're using a combination of each and upsert many, because we're saying, all right, we upsert a form, then we upsert many boats, but for each of those boats that we upsert, we have many records to insert, and we might have, each boat might have 10, 20 catches. And so that's where, when we get into these nested tables, you'll start to see these operations get a bit more complex, because we're trying to build this nested data hierarchy. Any questions on that?
I have a question about the identifier used at the beginning. Let me just go back up. This one, line 28, dataset ID, that doesn't come from COBOL, right? That's something that's coded in maybe the fetch job that grabs the underscore ID value from COBOL.
Does anyone else have an idea of where dataset ID comes from? Row 30.
I said what Charlotte said, so no.
Charlotte, did you see, sorry, I think I missed the last part of what you said. Just take a look at row 30.
Mm-hmm. Ah. Okay.
So take a look on the left. We have the data right there on the left. Can we find that X form ID string on the left somewhere?
Can I search like a normal
Control
F thing?
I think if you click in and then do Control F. Just if you.
No, yeah.
Does Control F work? Yeah.
But no, it doesn't work in the state window.
Okay. If you click into the state window and then do Control F, does that work by chance?
No, it's but it doesn't let me scroll down really. I don't know why.
If you.
I'm trying, but nothing's happening.
What browser do you use by chance, or what computer do you use?
Google Chrome.
Okay. Yeah, I'm taking some notes. So just so y'all know, we recently released this studio setup. So some of the features are still new. So Charlotte, I can kind of walk through the team here. What's going on? But okay. Are you able to? Are you on a Mac? Are you able to just kind of scroll down, or a PC?
I'm on a PC. I mean, I should be able to scroll down. I can scroll down on the right window. I don't know why this is stuck.
What about the scroll bar on the left? Does that allow you to do that?
No, that's the open function thing.
Oh man. Okay, shame.
Weird.
Yeah, maybe widen the expression.
Yeah,
there we
go.
Goes. Okay, cool.
Okay, was stuck.
So we're
searching what am I looking for again?
X form. If you remember, it was that X form ID string on line 90 or line 30. And maybe if I can ask you to scroll, we can keep both side by side. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was looking for the wrong thing anyway. Oops. Sorry. I just clicked something.
No worries.
No, that's fine.
So while Charlotte's doing this, if you all want to pull it up in your screen, see if you can find the X form ID string. And if you can, maybe just chat it quickly in the window. Well, another hint, Charlotte, if we scroll up.
Okay, I was going to say, here it is.
Yeah, there we go. But also you see these little arrows on the next to boats, for example, there's that drop down arrow.
Mm-hmm.
If you click that, it will uncollapse that whole section of the JSON.
Yeah.
So y'all, when Kobo sends us data, depending on how your form is structured, particularly when we have repeat groups, you'll see that repeat groups are kind of built into this nested way. So mirroring that ultimate data model that we want to have. So here, I see that boats, Kobo gives us what we call an array. So if you see that bracket there, that's a hint that there's going to be many boats. If you see that array bracket. And then within that array bracket, there's lots of different items going on. So I see here that it tells me for this survey, it looks like there's only one boat, only one item. But every boat might have some 44 questions in it. So if you click that little arrow next to the 0 and to uncollapse that, you'll see there's just one boat in that response. And if you decollapse that again, you can see the full details of that boat. But the editor on the left is trying to give you clues of kind of like how much data and what that data structures look like. So here we can see that there might be many boats, but in this survey and submission in particular, just one boat. So that's that XForm ID string, which is that same uform ID that we've been copying from the URL all along.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Cool. Awesome. Great. So then let's look a little bit further on the job on the right. So we have the sharks and rays. We have where we're mapping all this data. So this job looks really nice. What if we want to test the job? There are two ways you can do it. You can go to the inbox and you can go find a message and you can run the job against the message. Or in this view itself, you have data on the left, you have your job on the right. So see below, there's that save and run section. Yeah, so if everyone wants to pull this up on your side as well, go ahead and just kind of click that save and run and see what type of response you get.
Yeah.
There's that darn error again, huh?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is a very common error, and one thing that you all might come across as you're first working through the automation solution. Before we said you should be ready to go with the automation solution, what were the two things you needed to do before you can start using the automation job? Does anyone remember? OpenFN spits out a job for you. You go and you find that job. Is there anything else you need to do to that job so that it's on and it's working?
Oh, I was going to say turn it on, but
turn it on. Absolutely, we got to turn it on. And there was one other thing. Take a look at the top. We got the job. We have a name. We have a trigger. We have an adapter. What's missing?
The credential.
Yeah, where are we sending this data to? So this is a really common error. Basically, what OpenFN is doing is it's trying to package all this up, and it's saying, hold on, we can't find the host, the destination, the host URL of where we're supposed to be pointing this data to. So Charlotte, can you give this job a credential, please? I think there's one called ConSoSci automation. Awesome. Great. Now let's save it. I think on the right there. Great. And oh, kicked you out. Do you mind opening that up again? Back to the edit mode. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't realize it clicked you out. Cool. So let's run it again.
But we didn't turn it on.
Oh, it's all right. You clicked it. Okay. We're getting a new error. This is exciting. we logged into the database, but now we're getting some sort of other error. What do we see here? Anyone else have this error up on their screen? What type of error do they see on their screen while Charlotte's looking at this?
Is that a conflict with the dataset ID? Or was that just saying?
It says on conflict dataset ID, but I don't know if it's done talking to us. Charlotte, right. Do you mind scrolling down a bit? We can even expand this maybe a little bit more.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So, list of
So,
things.
so one thing to flag is that these logs are sometimes very verbose. There's a lot going on. And so particularly if you're not familiar with databases or the application you're working with, really encourage you to just, it sounds annoying, but read the screen and really kind of get through the bottom. A lot of times what these logs will do is it'll show you what it tried to do. And then at the very end, it'll fail because of some sort of block that it hits. So it looks like here, Charlotte, we have some sort of error going on. What does it say?
There's a problem with the generated UID column.
It does not exist. Oh, interesting. Huh, maybe someone was messing around with our database. It was me. So this might happen. Sometimes you run a job, you're ready to go, your data looks good, your mappings look good, and there's an error. So how might we go solve this error? How would we go figure this out? It's telling me this column doesn't exist.
But isn't the job supposed to create it if it doesn't exist with the website?
It does, but while you were on your break, I messed around with our database. So that's the fun surprise. So I didn't want it to go that smoothly for you. I want you to have to work a little bit for this automated job, Charlotte. So I told you I messed with the database. You're getting this error. What might you ask me, or what might you go do to kind of solve for this one?
To check that this is coded in the job?
Yes, check in the job. So you have the job in front of you. So let's check out what the job says. It looks like it's for that WCS, that first table that we're inserting. I think it's like on line 30.
30.
Yeah, so go ahead. I think a little bit further. We have this generated UUID. You see that there? Yeah, so I'm annoying and I removed the underscore on the database side. So I changed the column name. I don't like underscores in my database. So do you mind going ahead and just removing that underscore there? And scroll a little bit further down. There's also that second mapping. See that double mapping going on?
This one?
Yeah. See on line 53?
53. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind cleaning that up? I think I was trying to change it in the job and I messed it up a little bit. Yeah, great. And you can just go ahead and get rid of 52.
52? 55,
yeah.
No?
52. So you see how it's duplicated there?
Oh, okay. You want me to delete the whole line?
Yeah, just go ahead and delete it. So here's the thing. Okay. What if do Control Z? What if I don't want you to delete it? What if I say, Charlotte, can you comment it out just in case we want to add that back in? Has anyone worked with code before? Yeah, exactly.
This way or the okay.
The 2 slashes. So this is a nice quick way to just like quickly comment something out of, I want the code to skip at that line, but maybe I want to come back to this later, or maybe I want to leave a note for myself or for administrator and stuff like that. So before you go live for your jobs, you can clean it up not to confuse things, but as you're going on this, it might be helpful to do some of this. Okay, awesome. Great.
It's also good practice to leave comments in especially if there's something particularly complicated in code. So if you're going back to it, months from now, or someone else needs to evaluate, it gives them a little bit of a head start. Sorry, just throwing that in there.
Absolutely, and particularly if you have really complex logic on your job, that's like a nice way of explaining in English to someone, hey, here's what's going on here. So it's comments are nice, and the code will skip over it.
Oh, yeah.
You can double comment. You can also highlight a bunch of rows. And so if you highlight a couple rows,
yeah.
You can do Control slash,
Mm.
and then do it again. Voila, magic. So look at you, you're a coder now. Awesome. So now what we can do is, again, we can hit save and run.
Can I quickly just ask a question? Because does that now mean that in your database you're going to have two UUIDs? You're going to have a row with the generate underscore UUID and then a column, not row, and then a column with just the generate UUID but without the underscore. Is it just going to, is there going to be like a shift in your database as a result of that?
So I see here the data value there. So yeah, Charlotte, I think I maybe messed the job up a little bit too much. Do you mind getting rid of that leading underscore there? I'm pretty sure just generated UUID is what OpenFN spits out for us. So yeah, James, good question. This is me messing maybe a little bit too much with the automated job, but the generated UID, if we scroll up in the job, we can see, I believe that's the name of the variable that OpenFN. If we go all the way to that alter state, Charlotte, I think that's where that generate UUID is being created. So see here, it's taking the ID of the submission and the XForm ID string.
Okay.
And it's building this. So then we want to reference this throughout the job.
Ah, okay, cool. Yeah, gotcha.
Then do we need to clean it up in the whole job? Like there's 2 underscores here, and there were others below.
I think just generated UUID is all right. I'll double check in a second. I think I was in a hurry and maybe messed too many things up. So I'll just confirm with you it's right. But based off of what I'm seeing in 34, I think that's right. But I'll double check in a second.
And how about the other ones, like 55? And I'm guessing it comes back at every time we're upsetting something, like here.
Yeah. Well, why don't we run it? Because we just made a change. And I think a nice tip I always say with when you're making changes to code is test as frequently as possible, because you might make 20 changes, but your first change is the one that caused it. So if you can, like it's called like I've heard like pinata driven development. Smash as often as you can. That's like really what we try to do, and kind of what this interface is trying to do is minimize that time that you have between making a change and testing something. So if you can, as soon as you make a change, Charlotte, go ahead on the bottom left, click that save and run, and let's see if we get a different message.
Oh, it worked. I think, because there's a
yeah. So scroll down. So one thing that we could have done before is we could have cleared the last log, and then it would just refresh, but we can just scroll down and we can look all the way at the bottom. Huzzah! Look, it looks promising. So scroll up.
Does it?
Yes, it does. It does. So scroll. We got that green check. That's a good sign. But then scroll down to line 76. There we go. So what did we just do here?
We inserted into this table.
Exactly. And we filled out all that data. See your corrected column generated UUID. And did we do anything else in this run? Scroll further down. Did anything else happen?
I think so.
So this is getting familiar a little bit with SQL logs. So whenever you see us using upsert, it's always going to say, so if we go back to line 75, it's always going to say it's preparing to do this action in the database. So it's preparing to add data to this table, Sharks Raise. And it's telling you, here are the columns that we're about to load, here are the values. And then it's saying on conflict, so if there's an existing record, check on an ID. So that's where it's referencing that existing ID. So it's saying, okay, on conflict, use this ID and maybe update instead of inserting. So this is just very databasey language, but it's just telling you that it's about to upsert into the database. And then if we scroll further down is where we can actually see the result of that. And it looks like some other parts of the jobs were maybe skipped. Or it looks like here, there might not have been any data there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the database on my side, and let's actually take a look at the output here. But at the very least, Charlotte, you resolved the job error, which is great. We're getting green checks, which always makes me ridiculously happy. But the next step is you still need to make sure that, okay, OpenFN tells me it processed everything okay. But let me go check in with my database manager. Let me go check in with my data team to actually just 100% confirm that it is outputting exactly as I'd like. Because I'm not in the logs currently. I'm not printing what I did. So I need to go check out my destination system. And what this check is going to do, it's going to validate that we told OpenFN to process the data in the right way. Because we might have given OpenFN the wrong instructions. And OpenFN says, yeah, I did it. But then if we go look in the database, it's a different result. And so that's the thing to remember, is that OpenFN is only as smart as you kind of your instructions. So we need to make sure that whenever we're giving him instructions where okay, green checks are a good sign, that means no immediate conflicts, but we still need to just go verify the output. So let me pull up the database on my side. Any questions there?
I kind of don't understand why it would be okay without replacing the generated UUID like we did everywhere.
So I think it's because the UUID, it's talking about all these other tables. And so I don't think it's okay per se, but what I think is OpenFN's not going to insert data for other tables because we haven't fixed that UUID. So that's why in the log we're only dealing with one table.
Okay.
And therefore all these other records are blank. So let me share my screen and we can actually go look at the database.
Okay.
Awesome. Can you all see CD Beaver?
Yeah.
So remember, if you're using this tool, I really like it. There's also a couple other ones like PG Admin, things like that provide that point and click view. So particularly if you're someone that's not building databases, but is going to be checking out data, this might provide a nice view of things. But here I can see all the different tables that we're syncing in the solution. So Charlotte, that name of the table I think was this one, this WCS test structs and arrays. And I can see, if I go to properties, I can see here are the columns on that table. And then in data, I can see all of the actual data filled out. So it looks like maybe in my survey form, I didn't get all of the columns that potentially could be in that survey form, but I did get version. I see that. It doesn't look like there's pictures 2 and 3, but it looks like picture 1. Looks like I'm getting surveyors blank. That's interesting. Landing sites blank. That's interesting because I thought I had that in my job. Charlotte, or maybe someone else, do you want to share your screen? Because I'm pretty sure this isn't our job, but I don't see it mapped here. Surveyor and landing site. Does someone else want to take a look at and maybe why that's the case?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, I'll share my screen.
Cool.
Oh, I can't do it while you are sharing.
Oh, I will stop sharing. I will take a screenshot and drop it in the chat.
Cool. Okay. Desktop 2. Right. Oh no.
So one takeaway here is to coordinate any kind of changes in the database and form.
Yes. Headline. if you're gonna update your database, please tell whoever is managing your integration.
Or if you're going to update the form, make sure that you're coordinating with the source and the target. In case that's not abundantly clear.
Exactly. So I think that is the thing to consider, but also if you're working with partners and you're integrating with their stuff, let them know that to the question level, you are building a solution around that. So make sure that they know too that, hey, you know, we're pulling data out of this very specific way. If you are going to go change your forms, like give us a heads up, or don't change them in these ways, kind of thing. So that is one flag for folks that are doing a lot of Kobo administration. Like if it's not just you managing your forms and you're connecting to lots of forms, to save work for yourself and not have to do this troubleshooting every time. Try to kind of set up that governance for managing when changes happen once you have that integration in place.
This is also a good time to plug GitHub as a version control tool.
It is, and just so y'all know, we'll talk more about this now, but this project is synced with the GitHub repo. Most projects will do, we can set up that integration so you can edit jobs in OpenFunction, and those changes will still be recorded on GitHub, so you can see the history of changes. And then it works in the reverse. So you can also make changes in GitHub. So like maybe Steve's more comfortable in GitHub than OpenFunction, then it can be pushed to your job automatically. And so that's a nice way too, where you can collaborate with lots of people, you can create branches, all that. So we'll talk more about GitHub, but thanks, Steve. Cool. So I see here the one question that we had an issue with was surveyor. It looked like. Is that right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Shall
Okay.
Search for that?
Yeah. Surveyor. Okay.
Yeah.
So it says, what does it say there?
Well, that's just saying to take the data value for surveyor and put it into the surveyor column. That particular one. So
can we go find that data value in Kobo? Let's make sure that mapping's right.
Okay, so I want to find it in Kobo. Oh, what? So on the left.
Exactly. So we're searching for a surveyor. You can
see if I can search for it.
Yeah, I'm making notes. Rita, I'm thinking that kind of like a search in that state section would be super helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, it doesn't keep you search on this, and this is Firefox, so that's not one either. Surveyor.
If you collapse this boat section, I think it'll make it a bit easier to scroll. Yeah.
You could also open up the message in another tab if you wanted to get the full screen.
But I see something there, James.
What here?
Ah, now our Kobo form changed. Man, this is a really uncoordinated team. Man, this is so what can we do, James? How can we fix this mapping?
Can we just edit that directly in there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and do that for us?
Does it need to be small? Oh no, so right, so we need to be okay.
Spot on. And the other one was landing site.
Landing site answer.
Yep.
Right.
Subtle. So this is the type of backwards work that we'll sometimes do. So if you get a green check, that's a great first sign. That means something's synced. You go check out your database and you're like, something's still not right. Something's not being outputted correctly. Maybe data entirely is missing. Maybe data is not being calculated in the right way. Then you can work backwards. You can find that job. What is that mapping logic? Like, what is OpenFunction instructed to do? Okay, it looks like the instructions look okay, but let me go check the data coming in. And the data just mismatches the instructions. Like we're telling OpenFunction to take landing site, but there is no landing site. There's only landing site answer. And this is where the reminder is OpenFunction is very dumb. You have to tell it exactly what to do. And so that's like the little changes and little things like that can throw off a job. So James, do you want to go ahead and run this, and then we can check out the database again?
So but the only reason why you spotted that was because you actually physically went and checked the database. If you hadn't physically checked the database, then there wasn't an error sort of within OpenFunction, as it were, that highlighted that actually that there was a mismatch.
No, so not an error, but what we might do is in these logs is we might print what we're loading to the database. So I'll probably make that change before the next training, is printing exactly what we're uploading to the database. So that way in these logs themselves, we can see, oh, there's a blank value being passed to that column, Y, and then flag it here without having to log into the database itself.
Couldn't we also force an error, like on the database side, if you make that column not nullable and it tries to insert a null value, then it's going to make the job fail. So you could handle it that way too, right?
Yep, exactly. And so that's the other thing too, is like if your database has validation, that's going to block you from inserting a record, you'll get that type of feedback. So James, it looks like I think that same UUID, I think maybe because I don't know if maybe someone else added that back in, or I know we're collaborating all on the same job at the same time. So maybe I think it's that, yeah, that same fix Charlotte did exactly.
Okay.
And yeah, so let's get rid of that line 52.
This one.
Yeah, we'll get rid of that one, and then we'll get rid of the underscore in 53 and confirm that this is the way to do it. Okay.
But why didn't it record it?
Why did it not?
Why didn't it save the changes that I made?
I think it did. It save the changes, but James had this open already, so it didn't get reflected.
Yeah, maybe I had, yeah.
Yeah, and we can go look at the history too, but I think that's the case, is that we have 10 people looking at the thing and maybe his change overwrote your change. So that's where, again, if you are collaborating on stuff, GitHub is the better way to do it, because it really allows you to build other branches and merging and all that. But hey, looks like we got some sort of success, huh?
Yeah.
All right, let me pull up the database on my side. Okay. Sorry, where's the share screen? So green check is great. Maybe in the logs, we'll print out exactly what you uploaded. That way you don't have to go to the database. But just in case you didn't, maybe you also have the database open here. And you can still see, I just refreshed, I have the same record, just one row. So not duplicate data wasn't inserted. And it looks like now I have Tonga as my landing site. And it looks like also, was it Surveyor? Yeah, Surveyor filled in. James, does that match the message that you have on the screen?
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, you just troubleshooted, you just fixed the job, and you just uploaded data. And so that's really the workflow that you all should start to feel comfortable with, and hopefully the console interface provides that all-in-one view for just seeing your state, seeing your job, and seeing the output. But that's what OpenFN is at its core. It's taking data, it's taking state, it's taking job, and it's generating some sort of run or a log to tell you what happened. And so whether you're using this job studio view, or if you are using, there's ways to do OpenFN locally. So Steve, maybe down the line we could do some training on OpenFN dev tools and how to test on your local machine and stuff like that. But it's all the same components of you have state, you have a job, and you have your runner, and out of that you can integrate all sorts of things and also kind of check your work. So in the coming days we're just going to build off of this, and we're going to do some more job editing, writing jobs from scratch, at least get you all feeling comfortable with this interface, and so that way you can really quickly be drafting jobs and running it and prototyping it and just seeing that feedback. And we can work on like maybe printing out some of those logs, so that way we don't have to go to the database back and forth, but rather it can just stay in OpenFN itself. Cool. Any other questions on just what we covered today, or thoughts or comments as we get more into this?
I have kind of a general question. So we're working in JavaScript right now, and I think you mentioned there's a whole bunch of other languages too, right?
So not quite languages per se, but what the underlying baseline language of OpenFunction is JavaScript. But to make job writing easier for folks who are not JavaScript developers, our adapters provide all of these helper functions. And so these helper functions are designed to work in a way similar to an Excel formula where you pass, different parameters and into you declare certain functions or operations that you want to be doing. And so if I go to my edit view of my job studio, if you all can still see my screen, just a reminder that depending on what adapter you're working, on the top right, it's going to give you a list of some of those helper functions that are available in this job. So because I'm working with a database, I could choose to write raw SQL jobs. So I could just have a SQL statement that said insert into, and then I had my table name, and then I specify exactly like that. And I had this really long SQL statement. Or I could, if I'm not familiar with SQL, or I just want a quick way to upload data, I can rather just say upsert. And so if I copy this function here at the top and paste that here, it tells me, okay, upsert what table, and this is the what's my UUID, and then here I'm specifying the different values that we're mapping. So when in doubt, if you're not sure about where to start, using the automation solution as a template's a good chance. Remember that you have this documentation here, so you can either copy these functions and paste it, or if you choose this little documentation bar on the right, this also just gives you this kind of sidebar view of these documentation. And you can check that out. There's also a way to go look at this adapter's GitHub. And if I click on that, it'll take me to Postgres repository. And I can also check out really in-depth documentation. So if I'm really into the technical stuff and I want to understand exactly what OpenFunction's doing behind the scenes when we say upsert, I can go and I can check out the source code. There's most of these adapters also have different like documentation sites. And so if I open this up, a lot of this documentation is already in OpenFunction itself, but here's like another view of what these different functions are doing. So the goal is that hopefully the Job Studio kind of gives you that central console where you can access documentation, things like that. The main doc site link is over here on the left as well. But yeah, I always recommend kind of checking out that little book. These are adapter specific functions. There's also OpenFunction platform-wide functions. So one that we use all the time is data value, because we're pulling the data. Each is another one, merge, field. So there's different alter state. That's whenever we're manipulating state. So all of these can come into play. And if you have questions about these specifically, this is exactly why we'll be bringing some of our team members on who actually wrote these adapters. But that's all there. And then if you want a new change of pace, there's also a color palette, the most important thing. So you can change your view and so make job writing a little bit more fun. So this is kind of your job building studio. But of course, you can also do this locally or on GitHub, and there's lots of other options that we have some documentation on if you want to learn more. Cool. Any other questions for today?
This is a random one, but are there any text editors that you recommend sort of outside, obviously, OpenFunction that are good for?
Great question. Yes, there's one called VS Code that we like quite a bit. I'll drop the link now. I like it. It's open source. It also has all these plugins. So for example, when you like are pasting code in, it'll like you can have these what they're called linters to automatically like format your code so it looks really nice and clean. There's some plugins that also provide you this similar console interface that OpenFunction has, so you can like run things and test them as you're looking at it. They'll flag to you when you have syntax errors, all sorts of stuff. You can like see who made a change last on GitHub in the VS Code view itself. So I'll drop the link here. But great question. And a lot of times, if you're doing a lot of job writing, it's sometimes easier to kind of spin something up on there. OpenFN also has dev tools, which is a lot more technical, but there's some documentation on there. And once you get through this training, you'll understand the basics of how dev tools could be working. And that's another way to essentially spin up this type of environment locally, the same job studio environment locally. So you can have your job open on Visual Studio. You can have a copy of your state, and through your command line, you can put a little command to run, and then execute OpenFN's engine against these different components, and then basically do that on your computer. And so that's actually our development workflow. We do a lot of stuff on that, and then we'll kind of push changes up to GitHub or OpenFN. But if we're dealing with sensitive data, stuff where we don't want our computer our data stored locally on our computers, then that's also where that job console provides that nice interface and is really great for, I find, for troubleshooting and for quick changes. It's sometimes helpful to do on the platform itself.
Cool.
Great. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thanks all for sticking around for this one. So next up is going to be, actually, let's write jobs. So get ready to get your hands dirty to be kind of doing some of this from scratch. We'll start keeping it simple, but by the next session get a lot more complicated. Start to talk a little bit more about basic JavaScript, how we can do transformations, things like that. So if you are holding back technical questions, don't hold back in the coming sessions, but we'll try to keep it balanced where we're keeping things lightweight, but can also dive deeper on the technical side. So we'll have a couple other OpenFN teammates joining, so we can also break out into different groups if that's helpful, and do some more focused practice. But we'll be sending around some things to look over before then as well. But I encourage you all before we get started in those next sessions, like click around this project, make sure that you feel comfortable in the interface, know where to find data in Inbox, know where to find your outputs and runs, or just kind of clicking into a job, getting a little bit used to this interface here. But we'll be doing a lot more hands-on in the coming weeks.
Cool, fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and looking forward to next week.
Cool. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Thank you.